in this week's Parsha, we have the pasuk Yikimcha Hashem loy la'am kodosh. Yikimcha Hashem loy la'am kodosh. Eli Klein, how would you translate that? Yikimcha Hashem loy la'am kodosh. He will establish you for himself. He will confirm you for himself as a holy nation. Kasher nishba lecho, as he swore to you. Ki sishmor es mitzvahs Hashem Elokecha v'halachta b'drachav. If you will observe the commandments of Hashem and you will go in His ways. So Pashtus, the v'halachta b'drachav, you will go in His ways, is not a new mitzvah. It's a condition in the bracha of Yekimcha Hashem loy la'am kodesh kasher nishba lecho. When will that be? If you will observe the mitzvahs and you will go in His ways. However, the Rambam in the Sefer mitzvahs asay ches says v'hamitzvah hashminis he shetzivonu lihi domois boy yis'ala, that a person should try to emulate the Rebbeinu Shalom, try to become like him, kaviyach, lefi cholteinu, as much as we can. V'hu amoroi, and this is what he says in the Torah, v'halachta b'drachav. So the Rambam is saying that v'halachta b'drachav is a commandment, is a mitzvah. Uba b'pirush zeh, the Chazal explain what this means. What does it mean to go in His ways? Ma HaKadosh Baruch Hu nikra rachum, just like the Rebbeinu Shalom is called merciful. Af'ato hayei rachum, you should also be a rachum. Ma HaKadosh Baruch Hu nikra chanun, af'ato hayei chanun, etc. Then the Rambam says, V'zel l'shoin sifri, Parshas Re'eh. This is the lashon of the sifri in Parshas Re'eh that learns it from the pasuk. No, I really missed a few words. After the Rambam said, V'hu amoroi v'halachta b'drachav, the Rambam says, Kvar kofal tzivui zeh, that the Torah repeated this tzivui, V'omar loleches b'chol drachav. And that's a pasuk earlier, actually, in Parshas Re'eh, where it says loleches b'chol drachav uba b'pirush zeh ma HaKadosh Baruch Hu nikra rachum afato hayei rachum, etc. V'zeh l'shoin sifri Parshas Re'eh, that appears in the sifri in Parshas Re'eh. Ukvar nichpal hatzivui hazeh b'loshen acher. This is also repeated a third time, and that's in the pasuk in Parshas Re'eh that says achrei Hashem Elokeichem teilechu uba b'pirush gamkein. Inside the Daf Yudalid, she'in yonoi lihidomois bepu'ulois hatoivois v'hamidois hachashuvois she'yitu'ar bohem hokel yis'ale al tzad hamoshel yis'ale al hakol ilu rav. So the question is like this: the Rambam brings two Mamorei Chazal that teach us that there's a mitzvah to follow in the Rebbeinu Shalom's ways, and it means to be a rachum and a chanun. One Maimah Chazal is in the Sifri Parshas Re'eh on the pasuk Loleches b'chol drachav. The other is a Gemara in Soita Daf Yudalid on the pasuk Achrei Hashem Elokeichem teilechu. But nevertheless, the Rambam chose to learn it from the pasuk in this week's Parsha v'halachta b'drachav, which we don't find bechlal in Chazal that they should learn it from this pasuk. Besides the fact that we don't find it in Chazal, this pasuk doesn't seem to be teaching us a mitzvah. The pasuk in Parshas Re'eh, the pasuk in Parshas Re'eh sound like it's a commandment. But this pasuk, it says, Ki sishmor lasos, mitzvahs Hashem Elokecha v'halachta b'drachav, sounds like it's just being said as a condition in the bracha and not as a mitzvah. Yep. Now, there's another problem with the fact that the Rambam counts this as a mitzvah, and that is that the Rambam, in the shoroshim, in the roots of the mitzvahs, in the beginning of the Sefer mitzvahs, in the Shorish Revi, the Rambam writes, She'ein roi limnois hatzivuyim hakoilalim haTorah kula, that we don't count as a mitzvah those general commandments that are koilal kol haTorah kula. Hine yovoyu b'Torah tzivuyim v'azhorois, einon b'davar romuz. There are commandments in the Torah that don't allude to anything in particular. Avol yichlu hamitzvahs kulam, they incorporate all mitzvahs. Keilu yoymar, asay kol mashe tzivisicha, as if the Rebbeinu Shalom is saying, do everything I commanded you. V'hizor mikol mashe zaticha, and stay away from everything that I warned you against. Or don't hold back from doing any mitzvah that I told you to do. The ain ponim, it has no pshat. Limnois hatzivui hazeh mitzvah b'fnei atzma. There's no way we should count this as a mitzvah b'fnei atzma. Shehu lo yitzav elasis masa miyuchad, because the mitzvah is not telling us to do any particular thing. Shiyeh mitzvah aseh. V'lo yazhir me'asois ma'aseh miyuchad shehi mitzvah lo yisaseh. It's not telling me not to do something in particular. Ka'amorei, like the pasuk in Parshas Mishpatim, u'bechoil asher omarti alechem tishomeru. U'ka'amorei in Parshas Kedoshim, es chukoisai tishmeru v'es mishpotai tasu v'rabim koel. Now, if we say that all mitzvahs are included in v'halachta b'drochov, so we're talking about, even if we're talking about a commandment, we're talking about a commandment that's koilu kol haTorah kula, and the Rambam should not have counted it as a mitzvah. And this was asked of Rabbi Avram b'noi shel Rambam, and it's in the Tshuvas Rabbi Avram b'noi shel Rambam in Siman Samach Gimel. They ask him, Yilamdeinu Rabbeinu, b'ma shekosav b'mitzvah ches, v'halachta b'drochav hitzavoh, that the Rambam paskin that v'halachta b'drochav is a mitzvah, v'nireh shehu tnai, ka'oimroi uvo alecho, kol habrachos ha'elo v'sigucha, hatnai kisish malasi. So the first question they ask him is that it seems to be a tnai and not a mitzvah. And then they say, v'afilu hosa mitzvah, even if it would be a mitzvah, harehi koilelas kol haTorah. It includes kol haTorah kula, k'mavur min aksuvim shenichpulu be'inyan zeh. Ukvar omar Rabbeinu b'shorish Revi she'ein limnois hatzivuyim ha'koilel l'matorah. So Rabbi Avram b'noi shel Rambam responds, and he says, b'zeh haloshon, this that you say that it sounds like a condition only, it's not shver. Because Avada the Rebbeinu Shalom doesn't make a condition in the brachas that we do something that he didn't command us to do. So it's obvious, if this is a condition, it's obvious that we're commanded to do so. His boinim because of that in the beginning it says, what I'm telling you to do. So it's mefurish that the tnai is something that tziva boy. His kir hakmul al zeh. Kof al besoif. Fish is a kiyum atzivui. The fact that it appears as a condition doesn't remove it from being a tzivui. And adarabah, it's an indication that we are commanded lo leches the holachta b'droch. And this that you say that even if it's a mitzvah, it includes kol haTorah kula. But this is a question that needs to be thought about. Ushtei tshuvos lahasoga. So I have two answers to this question. One of them, and that's a very big yisoid in Torah, and in this, we, the rabbinic Jews, are different than the Karoim, the Karaites. We don't just rely on the Pashut Pshat, in other words, that we have a Torah Shebal Peh that interprets Psukim beyond Pshat. And therefore, and even if the Pashut Pshat of this pasuk would for sure mean that the Lolechis B'Kol Drochav includes Kol HaTorah, we are mechuyev to believe shehu tzivui prati, that it's a particular tzivui. Mipnei shepirsha boya kabole mahu nikra chanun v'chulei. Zu hatshuva ha'achas v'loi kosher masha'oma abamori. And then he goes into a second answer, which is more complicated. But what is he saying? He's saying that enechanami al pipshat, the pasuk seems to be saying Lolechis B'Kol Drochav, and that's koilul kol haTorah kula. Nevertheless, al pi the Masoros of Chazal, this pasuk is referring in particular to midos, to character improvement, to man hu nikro chanun afato hayechanun, mahu nikro rachum afato hayerachum, and as the Gemara in Soita says, mahu mevake choylem afato tevake choylem, and things like that. And therefore, it's dealing with particulars, and therefore, it does qualify to be counted as a mitzvah in the Tov Reish Yud Gimel mitzvahs. But Lamaisa, we still have a problem, because in that same Shoresh Dalid, in the Sefer Mitzvahs, the Rambam says that also a tzivui prati, also a particular mitzvah, a particular commandment. If it's repeating something that was already commanded, it's not counted again. As we see in this Rambam Gufi, it says it in Parshas Re'eh, it says it in Parshas Re'eh, and it says it in this Parsha, he only counts it as one. Now my question is, the Gemara in Soita that the Rambam brings says that the chiyuv of lehidomois ulehidovek b'midoisav shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Gemara explains in very practical, concrete terms what it's mechayev us to do. As the Gemara says, Mahu malbish arumin, afato halbesh arumin. Mahu biker hacholim, just like the Rebbeinu Shalom was mavaker cholim, afato baker cholim. Mahu menachem avelim, afato nachem avelim. Mahu kavar mesim, and the Gemara brings all the examples. Mahu kavar mesim, afato kavar mesim. Now, all these things are already included in the mitzvahs aseh of ahavta l'reacha kamoicha. As the Rambam clearly states in Hilchis Eivel, in the beginning of Perek Yud Daled, B'zeh Haloshen, mitzvahs aseh shel divreihem, levaker cholim, ulenachem avelim, ulehoitzi ames, ulachnis akala, ulabis orechim, ulasig b'chol tzorchei akvura v'chulei, v'chein l'sameach achosim v'akala, ulesaadam b'chol tzorcheihem, ve'elu hen gmilas chasodim shebegufay, she'en lohem shir, af al pi shekol mitzvahs elu midivreihem, harei bechlal v'ahavta l'reyacha kamoicha. Kol advarim she'ata roitze sheyasu oisom l'cho, acherim, asay at oison ato lo'achicha b'torah b'mitzvahs. So we see clearly that everything that's included in the mitzvah of a halachta b'drochov, which is bikur cholim, nichum avelim, achnasas kala, it's all included in v'ahavta l'reyacha kamoicha already. So what did the Rabbi Avraham ben Oishel Rambam accomplish by saying that this is not a general mitzvah that includes kol haTorah kula, but it refers to particular things? These particular things are also already included in V'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha, and the Rambam in that same shorish says that something that's repeated, that we were already commanded, is not counted as an independent mitzvah. L'chora, it's already V'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha. So l'chora, it would be shaykh to say that the mitzvah of V'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha is not mechayev an emotion of love. It's not mechayev the feeling of compassion, the feeling of empathy. Just like the Gemara says in Shabbos, Mada aloch sani lechavrech loisavid. Don't do unto others what you don't want them to do unto you. And the Rambam says it in a positive way also. Whatever you want one to do unto you, you should do unto others. And if a person is menachem avelim, he's mevakeh cholim, even if his heart is not into it, maybe that's enough to be mekayim the mitzvah of V'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha. And now we can say that what was neschadish in the mitzvah of halachta b'drochov, itake is mechadish something new, meaning that it's not enough that you do those things that you want others to do unto you, and you refrain from doing to others what you don't want them to do to you, but this mitzvah demands of us mahu nikra chanun afato hayei chanun. In other words, here we have a chiyuv to shape our personality, to develop, a feeling, a pneumistic feeling of rachum b'chanun. Often that, even though in terms of the external expression, the whatever is included in this mitzvah is already included in V'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha. Nevertheless, this mitzvah is mechadish something new, and that is that we need to become a rachum. We need to become a chanun. It's not enough to act as a rachum, to act as a chanun, but you need to become one. But this assumption that the mitzvah aseh of V'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha only refers to doing and not doing, and it doesn't include developing internal emotion, seems far-fetched. It seems wrong, because even if we'll say that V'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha is a mitzvah of choivas ha'evarim, doing and not doing, But avada, even in the Chayvei Seivarim, it's included that one should attach himself to the inner meaning of the mitzvah, and it shouldn't be just a external act or that he doesn't connect to b'pnimius. So it's strange to say that v'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha is niskayim by just doing and not doing, and it doesn't require of us to become kind and loving people. And actually, in the Rambam in Hilchos Deis, Perik Vav Halacha Gimel, he writes, "Mitzvah al kol adam le'ehoiv es kol echad ve'echad miYisrael kedufay." It's a mitzvah to love everybody like yourself. Shem v'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha lefichach tzorich l'saper b'shvachoi v'lochas al memoinoi. So the Rambam clearly states that the mitzvah v'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha is to love your neighbor and not to just do to him what you want him to do to you. But the Rambam says it's a mitzvah le'hoiv. And lefichach tzorich l'saper b'shvachoi. So the question comes back. So already is mechayiv us to become kind, giving, and caring people. What was neschadish in the mitzvah of a halachta b'drochav beyond that? And why is the mitzvah of a halachta b'drochav considered an independent mitzvah? So I want to suggest as follows. The Rambam in Hilchos Deos, in the end of the first parak, writes b'zeh haloshen, haderech hayishoro, he mida beinoinis. Shebechol day of a day. The medium, the in between, the mida beinoinis. Shebechol day of a day. Deis over here means midos. Haderech hayishora he mida beinoinis shebechol day of a day. Mikol deis sheyesh l'adam. He had deis sheyirechoika mishnei aktzavos richuk shove ve'eino kroi v'loy lezu v'loy lezu. In other words, that and as he explains that a person shouldn't always get angry, he should never get angry. A person shouldn't always go to this extreme to that extreme. A person should always be in the middle. Yeah, the derech hayishoro he mida beinoinis shebechol mida. And the Rambam says, "Umitzuvimonu loleches bedrochim elu habeinoiniyim, v'heim hadrochim hatoivim, shenemar v'holachta bedrochov." So here the Rambam quotes the pasuk of "holachta bedrochov" as the source for following the middle path. Kach lomdu b'pirush mitzvazu mahu nikra rachum afato heyei rachum b'chulei. So the Ketzad Yargil Atzmai B'Deos Elu. How does a person develop these midas? How is he margil himself in these midas? Achi Yikavu Boy till they become part of his personality and who he is. Yase v'yishne v'yishalish. He should do once and again and again. B'masim she'oisi al pi hadeos emtsoyos. He should repeat over and over again the acts that he does, al pi, the deis hamtzoyis, the yachzor behem tomid, he should repeat it all the time, ad sheyiyu maasehem kalimolov, until it will become easy, v'lo yeh bem toirach, and it won't be difficult. V'yikavu adeis benafshoy, these midas will be nikva benafshoy, become who he is. So what do we see? We see, Klor, that the mitzvah of halachta b'drochav is mechayiv, somebody who's already doing these maisim al pi hadeyos hamtzoyos. He's doing them over and over again. But the mitzvah is not over, because the mitzvah is to do it over and over again, add that he reaches a point where it becomes easy. And it's not difficult. It's not a tirch. So lefizeh, we can say that it's taka true that avada, the mitzvah of ahavta l'reacha kamoicha, already includes the emotion of love to the extent that's necessary in order for me to do these things. And when I do it for my friend, I'm doing it with a true emotion. But it doesn't yet mean necessarily that it's easy. Meaning, just like in all mitzvahs, we say lokuf es yitzroi odif. We say that fighting your Yetzer Hara is Goramayla in a mitzvah. So it could be that every time I do something for somebody, I'm doing it I'm doing it but I have a struggle. I have a struggle. That would qualify for the mitzvah of Ahavta L'Reacha Kamocha, just like the mitzvah of Priko Te'ina. It qualifies for, just like for any other mitzvah, just like for the mitzvah of Lulav. I mean, the inner struggle doesn't disqualify the mitzvah, but rather qualifies the mitzvah. So the mitzvah of Ahavta L'Reacha Kamocha would also be able to be done in a way that it's not easy. Here the Rambam says, V'alachta b'drachav demands of us that we become the kind of person that it's easy. Sheyu ma'aseim kalim olav, v'lo yeh b'hem toirach. So that's the hidomus to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, V'alachta b'drachav, to become a chanun, to become a rachum. That asks of us to become such kind of people that doing something for somebody else or refraining from doing an avla to somebody else is really completely who we are, and there's absolutely no struggle. It's easy, and it's not a tircha at all. So the fizeh kumtois, that in the mitzvah of Alachta B'drachav was neschadish, that even though the chiyuv to be mevakeh choila avada is only when there's a choila lefanenu, you know somebody that's sick, or to give tzedakah or gemilas chasadim is only if there's somebody that you know that needs it. Let's say not only if he turns to you, maybe you should turn to him, but there's no mitzvah mitzad v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha or mitzad the mitzvah of gemilas chasadim to search for people that need. But that's all when I'm answering the call of V'ahavta L'Reacha Kamocha. But when I'm answering the call of V'halachta B'drachav, which is really mechayev me, Yaseh v'yishne v'yishalesh b'oisam hamaisim ad sheyu kalam olav. This is a mitzvah of character improvement. So I need to find people to do good to, because only by finding people to do good to and doing good to them am I going to develop to the point where Yiyu Hamaisim Kalamol of Torah. This is not a mitzvah that's an answer to an outside call of the one that's in need. This is something about myself that I have to engage in these activities in order to develop my character. It's like that in the Rambam. Because the Rambam says, Yasav Yishna V'Yishalish, Ad Shiyu Maisim Kalamolav. No, and what happens then? When it becomes easy, the mitzvah is over. The mitzvah is over. So now if somebody comes and asks me for help, I shouldn't help him because I'm done with the ad. Teretz says we're talking about two totally different dimensions and two totally different levels. Avada is a mitzvah to respond to somebody's need. But the mitzvah of Alachta B'drachav is not about responding to somebody's need. It's a mitzvah to go search for people that are in need in order to develop your character. That mitzvah you have until you develop your character to the point that doing a chesed is easy. Once you develop your character to that point, you don't have to be looking for people. At that point, if somebody needs, you help him. If there isn't somebody that needs, you don't need to go look and help them. There's a Rambam in the Parshas Mishnayos in Perek Gimel Mishnah Tetzvav in Avos, when the Mishnah says V'hakoil lefi roiv hamaseh. So the Rambam says roiv hamaseh. Everything is according to the roiv hamaseh. The Rambam says avaloy al pi hamaseh. It's roiv hamaseh. What is the Mishnah coming to teach us? The Rambam says b'zeh loshen. Omar shahamailos lo yusgu. The milas cannot be attained. Lefi shiur goydel hamaiseh. Lefi the shiur of the greatness of the act. Elo lefi roiv mispar hamaiseh. A person can attain a milah not by doing something huge, by doing something big, by doing something great, but by doing something small over and over again. The roiv mispar hamaiseh impacts me more than doing something big. And the Rambam says, B'zeh shehamailas omnom yuzgu, the milas are attained b'chfoil maiseh hatoiv pa'amim rabbis, when a person repeats good acts many times over, ubazeh yusak hakinyan. With that, he will be koine, he will possess the midah. Loi b'sheyaseh ha'odam maiseh echod godol mi maiseh hatoiv. Shebezeh levadai lo yusak hakinyan. Moshul zeh, and the Rambam gives a moshul. Moshul zeh, sheha'odam im yitein lemisha roi elef dinner. A person gives $1,000 to a person that needs it. The pamachas, in one shot. Ule ish echad, and to one person. Loi tusag loi mailas hanedivis. He won't acquire the midah of nedivis. Bezeh hamaisa echad hagodol. With this one big act, kemoishe tusag, as he will be able to attain it, lemishi yisnadet elef ba'amim, one dinner at a time. The Rambam says that if you give $1 at a time to 1,000 people, you have more chance of acquiring the midah of nedivus than by doing one huge act. V'yiten kol dinner mehem al tzad nedivus. Lefi shezeh yichpal al yodoi ma'isa nedivus elef pa'amim v'yusa kinyan chozak v'zeh pamachas bulvadis oiru hanefesh es oirus gedoyla l'maisei toiv. V'ach kach poska mizeh. So now, I mean, you look in the whole Rambam over there, but I'm saying that's the chadav of Pashut, that if there's an ani that needs $1,000 and he comes to me, I have to give him $1,000. I can't tell Reb Yid, I know you need $1,000, and I know that the Torah tells me to give tzedakah day machzorah. However, I'm working on my character, and therefore, do me a favor, take $1 because I want to save the dollars to give to 1,000 people in order that I should be kind of the midas and adivas. Avada, that's not what the Rambam is saying. So we're talking now not about the mitzvah of tzedakah. We're talking now about the kinyan midas and adivas, which is mitzad v'halachta bidrochov. In other words, I can go and search for people, for one person who needs $1,000, or I can search for 1,000 people that need $1. So if I'm working on my character, the way to go is to look for 1,000 maisim, small maisim, more than one big maisim. So this again is the difference between v'halachta bidrochov and the mitzvah of gemilas chasadim. And if you look carefully in the Shulchan Aruch Harav, in Orach Chaim, Siman Kuf Nun Vov, Siv Gimel, you see that Ikemat Mefurish says what we're saying. According to this, l'chore, it would come out another big chiddush. The halacha is, the Gemara says in Moed Kotten Daftes, the Rambam Paskins in Hilchos Talmud Torah Perek Gimel, that you're not mevatel Talmud Torah for a mitzvah that can be done by others. If there are others that can take care of the Hachnosas Kala, and I'm in the middle of learning, so ein mevatlin Talmud Torah for a mitzvah she'ef sheli yosei. Well, according to what we're seeing now, this is only true when I already reached the madrega of mahu nikra rachum afato hayei rachum. In other words, now my chiyuv is not. So the pshat is, so now my chiyuv is only to respond to somebody's need. So we say, listen, it could be done by somebody else. It's a mitzvah she'ef sheli yosei acherim, and you're learning. Don't be mevatel Torah. But when you're busy with developing your own character, and you have the chiyuv of v'halachta bidrochov to come to a point where the maisim are kalim, so then it's not ef sheli yosei acherim. I mean, the need can be fulfilled by somebody else, but you're going to remain who you are, and you're never going to develop your character. So the ganze klal, that a mitzvah she'ef sheli yosei acherim, you're not mavadal Talmud Torah for, according to this, it would come out a tremendous chiddush that it only applies to somebody who's sure that he already reached the madrega of mahu nikra rachum af ato hayei rachum. It's kind of a chiddush gadol. Yeah. In any case, Chazal say that alamole mikra kosov, the Gemara says in Rosh Hashanah Daf Yud Zayin, if it wouldn't say in Mefurish in the Torah, ef shalom wouldn't be allowed to say this, and that is that Kaviyochel, this Atev, Kishliach Tzibur, the Rebbeinu Shalom wrapped himself in a talis, Kaviyochel like a Shliach Tzibur, and he showed Moshe the Seder Tefillah, and he told him, Kol Zman She Yisrael Choitim, whenever Yidden will Chas v'Sholem sin, Yasu Lefonai Keseder Hazeh, they should do before me like this Seder, which is the saying of the Yud Gimel Midos Harachamim V'ani Moiche Lohem. And that is why in the Yemei Haslichos V'Harachamim, we repeat over and over again the Yud Gimel Midas Harachamim. But in the Pirush Eitz Yosef on the Ein Yankiv, he brings in the name of the Alshich. The Alshich is in Yeshaya, Siman Samach Beis, that says, V'shamati b'shem Livnas HaSapir, don't know who that sefer is, Shal Kain Loi Omar, Imru Lefonai Keseder Hazeh, Elo Yasu Lefonai Keseder Hazeh. Why doesn't it say before me this Seder? It says, do before me this Seder. Shekivein loymar, ki loy ba'amira ba'al metal yemilse ela ba'asiyah. The kavana is, it's not enough to say the words Chanun, Rachum, Erech Apayim, V'Rav Chesed, but it's about doing it. Ki oisan midois shezoichrim, Chanun, V'Rachum, V'chulei, tasu oisan. You should do them. Val yedei kain lo yoshuvu reikam. So this is a time of the year when we ought to focus on the Yud Gimel Midas Arachimim, but not as a magical buttons that we press by saying these words and thereby evoke Rachamei Shamayim, but in the sense of Yasu Lefonai Kaseder Hazeh, that we work on developing our character, becoming kinder, becoming more caring, more giving, not so centered on ourselves. Mahu nikra rachum af ato hayei rachum. And that's by seeking out, that's Mechayev also to seek out. Just like the Rebbeinu Shalom, the Chanam V'Rachum, he created the world. It wasn't like he was responding to a need. He wasn't responding to any need because there was no need. He created the need in order to exercise Kaviyochel, the midah of Rachum, of Chanun, of Erech Apayim. And so also, it's not about, the Valachta B'Drochav is not about responding to a need, but actually looking for needs that need to be answered. Okay, Rabbi Say,